Aye.
Bulkin. Brugman.
Aye.
Borneman. And Rosenberg, aye. Thank you very much. We are moving on to item number 2, discussion and possible action approving a conditional use at 3701, 3805, 3815, and 3901 Stewart Avenue to allow for a large-scale medical facility in a suburban mixed-use zoning district. This is from Ellis Construction and REI Engineering. Before we get started on this, I'll pass it over to Brad.
Sure, thank you. So as noted in the packet and the staff reports, this came before us last month for the public hearing for the conditional use, and as part of the process, it comes back to us a second time to weigh in on any substantial evidence that was collected at the public hearing. There was no public testimony at the hearing last month, and as noted before, this project basically meets all of the zoning requirements and the standards that are in the code. The only issue which needs the conditional use permit is the size of the building, which is over 50,000 square feet. So otherwise, we think it meets all the standards, and we recommend approval as it was proposed.
Okay, I don't know if the developer wants to make any comments before I entertain a motion here.
Your Honor, we're simply here for any questions that you may have and any questions that either I or REI Engineering can answer for you. We certainly would be happy to do so.
Okay, thank you. I guess at this point, I would entertain a motion on this. I've got a motion by Borneman. Do I have a second? Second by Bulkin. Are there any questions or discussion? Nothing? Oh, we got one from Peckham.
Did you want to take any public comment on it, or
If there is public comment on this,
I believe we have an alder in the audience who wanted to speak?
on this item?
Not on this one, okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, well, I think, not seeing any more wishes to speak, I will call the roll. Lindman.
Aye.
Peckham. Neal.
Aye.
Bulkin. Brugman.
Aye.
Borneman. Rosenberg, aye. That passes unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, next item on our agenda is discussion and possible action on approving a conditional use at 221 Scott Street to allow for a wireless telecommunication facility in a downtown high-rise mixed-use zoning district. This is T-Mobile Central LLC. Want to give us a little background again on this, Mr.
Sure.
Lenz?
Thanks. Yes, similar to the last one, we did hold a public hearing last time. There was no public comment. T-Mobile was present and did offer some additional testimony after the meeting, and that is in your packet. They responded to the standards that are in our zoning code for approving conditional uses. And, you know, staff's, I guess, original concerns about the historic nature of the building were addressed by the petitioners in terms of the setback from the front facade and the historic features of the building, and color that would blend into the building and so forth. So, you know, we feel all those standards that we may have conditioned this on, those were already addressed in the proposal. So I guess we would recommend approving it as it's proposed.
Okay, thank you. I'm wondering if T-Mobile, if anyone would like to give any comments before I entertain a motion?
Like Mr. Halverson said, this is Mike Howley representing T-Mobile, and I am also available for any questions or comments from the board. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I guess at this point, I would entertain a motion. Motion by Peckham, second by Borneman. Are there any questions here or comments? I'm not seeing anyone, so I guess we're ready to vote on this. I'll start with Borneman.
Aye.
Brugman.
Aye.
Bulkin. Neal.
Aye.
Peckham. Lindman.
Aye.
Rosenberg, aye. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Booking right along to item number 4, discussion and possible action on approving the final plat review for Royal Vistas. Any background here?
Sure, this one, this is the final plat, and it's an extraterritorial plat, so it's not in the city, it's outside the city, but within our 3-mile extraterritorial review boundary. That's in the town of Rib Mountain. It's actually the exact same plat that was submitted last time as a preliminary plat. This is the final plat. There's a 2-step process to this, so this is, like I said, the same, and it did go through council, the preliminary, and that was already approved. I'm trying to find the actual map for everyone here, but it's here somewhere. It should be in the packet.
A
If there
paper
are
copy, but
any questions, I'm not seeing it electronically, but, oh, there it is, it's just off to the side.
okay.
So, yeah, I think folks are here to answer any specific questions as well.
Okay. I guess at this point, if we want to get discussion going, I would entertain a motion. I've got a motion by Lindman, and he's been a second by Peckham. Are there any questions from commission members or comments? I know that we talked about this. Yes, Mr. Bornman.
Just a general question. Do you have extraterritorial agreements with, like, all the surrounding municipalities and towns?
The ones that are unincorporated, yep.
Okay.
Yep, and Rib Mountain technically is unincorporated, so,
Okay.
yep.
So we didn't give you any microphone training. There's a little switch you can hit, and then our guy in public access will put his thumb up, and he'll be very pleased that everyone can hear you. So
Okay, all right,
next time, we're good. The question was about agreements with other municipalities. So,
okay.
all right. I think we're ready to vote unless there are other questions. Okay, Lindman,
Aye.
Peckham,
All right.
Neal,
Aye.
Volken, Frugman,
Aye.
Borneman,
Aye.
and then Rosenberg, aye. All right. Thank you very much. And the agenda item, I'm guessing most people are here to talk about, is the public hearing on discussion and possible action on rezoning 1300 Cleveland Avenue from a medium industrial zoning district to a multifamily residential 12 zoning district. So the public hearing is now open. I will open it up. So if you would like to make comments, I know we've gotten a ton of comments, but if you'd like to make comments here, you can approach the podium and give your name and address for the record, and you'll get 3 minutes. So you're welcome. Whoever wants to go first.
I'm Bruce Grau, 1115 North 10th Street, and 3 minutes.
Yes, I have signs. I'll help you.
Okay, thank you. I need all the help I can get. So to underscore the necessity of citizen input into city policy discussion making, I was going to read a couple of excerpts from 2 tendered comments speaking to the issues around the contamination and rezoning issue at 1300 Cleveland Avenue. In summary, I counted 35 submissions, 26 favored rezoning, back to residential, 1 opposed, and that was from 3M, and there were 8 others. I don't have the time to describe those. First excerpt, having worked for 7 years in the petroleum equipment industry during the 1990s, I oversaw many mandated fuel tank removals all around Wisconsin. Many of these older tanks had leaking or serious overfill contamination problems. Contamination always had to be reported to the Wisconsin DNR, and a DNR agent was assigned, and owners large and small were forced to remediate their property immediately. Clean closures were relentlessly pursued. Counterforest industry should have been required to remediate their pollution decades ago. Remediation should have been required prior to the city assuming ownership. Why has the Wisconsin DNR in the city of Wausau not required the pollution remediation according to the letter of the law in Wisconsin? Require Connor to clean up their mess once and for all. It wouldn't hurt to kick Century into serious gear also. This entire industrial conclave has been an environmental nightmare for over 100 years. It's past time. And then the second one by Jeanette Abram. She's a family physician in Wausau area. I care deeply about the health and well-being of all area residents and am greatly concerned about the environmental issues that are impacting the Thomas Street corridor and the former Connor property. Thallium is a highly toxic, highly absorbable, tasteless, odorless substance that never degrades. Its presence in the soil puts area residents at risk for developing permanent damage to their nervous system. This site, which has high levels of toxic thallium throughout and concentrations above state limits, needs to be fully remediated to the most protective standard. The safety and welfare of anyone further using this site needs to be a prime consideration, as is the safety and welfare of surrounding residential properties would be as well. Further industrial expansion of this area would be inappropriate and would demonstrate lack of regard for the health of area residents. This is not a fiscal issue. This is an issue for city government officials to remember why they are in various positions and to whom they are responsible. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If you could say your name and address for the record.
I will.
Thank you.
Terry Killian. I live at 133 East Thomas Street in very close proximity to Cleveland Avenue and the property at 1300 Cleveland Avenue. Friends and neighbors of mine also live in close proximity to the property at 1300 Cleveland Avenue. I want the city's zoning map error corrected so that 1300 Cleveland Avenue is rezoned back to residential, the zoning it would have had if the city or its consultants had not made a mistake. The opinion from residents in the neighborhood and community has been overwhelmingly in favor of fixing the city's error and rezoning this property back to residential. Thank you for listening to the public and taking a step forward to correct the city's mistake by rezoning this property back to residential.
Thank you. We're ready for anybody else that would like to. You could state your name and address for the record.
Elgard Bauman, 105 Edward Street. I live right across the street from this, and I drove through there the other day. If the city owns that property, why wasn't that contamination taken care of a long time ago when they tore down them buildings? And now you drive through there, somebody's using it for a log yard. There's piles of logs in there. There's sewer pipes in there. There's a pile of wood chips. You ought to live around there in the summer when that pile starts fermenting. It's a nice smell. It's a good place to have a picnic. And I've lived there 54 years, and I haven't had any problem with it being industrial. No problem at all. Who's behind zoning this into residential? Because at one time, St. Vincent de Paul wanted to build a homeless thing on there, and they wanted to pay $1 for that property. So is there somebody behind this rezoning this?
We actually can't respond to your comments right now, but maybe if you want to talk afterwards, we can.
Okay. I don't know, I guess that's what I have to say.
Thank you.
Gary Gisselman, 319 Park Avenue, Wausau, Wisconsin. First of all, I want to thank the Plan Commission for, again, revisiting this issue of 1300 Cleveland Avenue. I was on the Plan Commission as well as the City Council back in 2018 when we thought it was certainly an appropriate idea that this land be zoned for residential. I'm not sure of the exact circumstances at that time, but I think I had the unanimous consent really of both of those organizations that this would certainly be an appropriate zoning for this. And through the master zoning plan of 2019, that this land got zoned something else. And now, thanks to the Plan Commission and the Planning Office today, it's brought back for consideration again. And I urge that the Plan Commission again passed this on to the City Council for a rezone. I think you've heard from the neighbors. I think you've heard from the citizens with regard to this, and I think it certainly is, like I said, an appropriate move on the part of the Plan Commission to move this up to the City Council so that this can be again zoned residential. I would hope that somebody could answer Mr. Bauman's question. I think that we should have that certainly as part of the record this evening. I think that's an interesting thing, but I think it's brought back because the city planning office and the Plan Commission again is seeing that there was a mistake made and an attempt now to correct that mistake with that master planning, with that master zoning back in 2019. So thank you again for having this public hearing, and I urge you to support the rezone of 1300 Cleveland. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi there.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Lou Larson, 904 South 21st Place, Wausau, Wisconsin. I would urge the Planning Commission to go back to what the City Council voted back in 2018 to not only rezone us back to residential use, but also to clean the land up to residential standings, which is more stringent, and make this neighborhood safe for children and families to live. I understand that there's an environmental cleanup fund that has excess of $1 million in it from the Holson-Krause landfill cleanup site. I suggest that we also urge the city council and stuff to put these funds to use and clean up our city. Thank you.
Thank you. We're ready for whoever's next.
Dennis Smith, I live at 3516 Polzer Drive, Wausau. I know you're not supposed to respond, but I have a question for Mr. Lemon, just to ease my mind. The city council, I believe, voted to make this residential, but somehow on the map it ended up industrial. Is that correct?
Yeah, we can go through the whole background after the public hearing is over, since this is the
Well,
opportunity for the
I
public.
need that information to push my comments, so.
So, all right.
You want me to answer?
Yeah, please.
What was the question again, please, sir?
The question was, this originally was voted by the city council to rezone this as residential, but somehow on the map it ended up as industrial?
Yes, in 2018, the council voted to change it from M2 to R4 in response to a specific project that was potentially on the horizon for a residential project.
Okay, so, but when the map was drawn, then somehow instead of being residential, it got
Right.
put down as industrial?
Yep, we updated our zoning code and map, the whole thing, the whole map, the whole code. And it took, I think, a year and a half. So during that time, we continued to take rezoning requests. We didn't put a moratorium on rezonings. We kept taking rezoning requests. And this was one of the requests that came in during that time where we were updating the citywide zoning map. So the consultants had used a draft of a zoning map for the whole city that was based on the original zoning code.
Okay.
And then that draft map just kind of went through the whole process, and it didn't get updated for this specific zoning for this parcel that had occurred during that process, so.
Okay, so basically this map does not agree with what the city council passed?
No, that's incorrect. The city council did pass the draft map as it's shown today.
Okay, but were they aware that it showed that it is industrial instead of residential, which they had voted to make it residential?
I don't believe so, if I'm understanding your question.
Okay. Well, in any event, I think it should be kept, it should be changed back to residential, which what was voted on. Evidently, this is simply an error. And use it, I don't know what we have to do, cap it, something, turn it into a green space, turn it into a bigger dog park. That little walk-in closet we've got for a dog park down there isn't big enough for a city of 39,000 people. That would make a nice dog park, and I think it would take a little bit of, not a lot of money to remediate it so we could use it as that. Thank you.
Thanks. If there's anybody else that would like to approach the podium for the public hearing?
Good evening, Tom Killian, 133 East Thomas Street, Alderperson, District 3. As it had been said recently, this rezoning back to residential is essentially a housekeeping matter because a zoning map error resulted in the property zoning being unintentionally flipped back to industrial. And I applaud the interim director of city planning for identifying and communicating this error, and the plan commission for triggering the process to correct it. I think the community understands very well that honest errors occur, whether from individuals or from governments. But I also think that there is a reasonable, firm expectation from the public that when the government makes an error, whether through a legally valid process or not, and I think it was just described that it was a valid process, perhaps unintended but valid, that the error is promptly and justly corrected. And that really seems to be why we were here tonight. And I think we can be proud of that, because correcting this oversight is not just logical or just, it's good governance. And on top of the fact that this is simply a routine correction of a government error, I have received and observed a high volume of citizen feedback on this topic, as has this commission, and that public sentiment has been overwhelmingly supportive to rezone 1300 Cleveland Avenue back to residential. And while it's always great and valuable to hear different perspectives from residents, and we heard that tonight, and all those residents' views are valuable, and whether they differ or not, that's part of a healthy democracy. But as the representative, the large amount of feedback I've received has asked that the city's error be corrected, and that this be rezoned back to the intended residential of what the city council had voted. So I'm here tonight to strongly support the Plan Commission doing that, and thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you. I see Alder McElhaney has her hand up, so I would definitely give you the 3 minutes. Oh,
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. Sorry I was late. Becky McElhaney for Sticky Ash. Speaking tonight regarding Commission public hearing of rezoning 300 Cleveland Avenue back to residential. I am in favor of doing that, just as I spoke to before. I think that the council in 2018, which I was a part of, we discussed this and unanimous that we were industrial uses out of our neighborhoods. And we have told residents that's the reason we moved Great Lakes Cheese and other things, that was better use as a residential area. So we should be consistent, I believe, and have the back to residential. We don't have what used before due to the contamination that we found, and that's an ongoing issue. But it's and will be much happier. So I hope that the voices are heard tonight and we go forward with the rezone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you. William Harris, 316 and a half North 3rd Street, Wausau, Wisconsin, zip code 54403. I am the Marathon County Board Supervisor for District 3, and representing my district, I've heard from a number of my residents, and they all support moving forward, moving this back to residential, or the way it was actually intended. And I think I echo a lot of the comments. When an error is made, our government, we should be accountable, and we should make the change necessary to make sure that we look out for our residents. So I am here just to say simply, I strongly support moving this back to residential. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Alder Ryan's hand raised. If you're ready to take 3 minutes, we're ready to hear from you. Oh, is she on mute? I'm sorry, Alder Ryan, we can't hear you. We're gonna, oh, yep, you're muted. We'll try and get you. You wanna hit, it's above.
Like she has to do it. Oh, there you
Oh,
go.
wanna try again?
Okay.
Oh, we hear you. We're ready for you.
No, we don't hear you.
Oh. Okay. One moment. Can you just unmute?
I did, and then she did.
Okay, try it again.
Neighborhood, over the years and pass by when I'm going to the compost site. And it just seems a nice, quiet neighborhood, and I understand why the neighbors would like to have that back as residential. I guess I'm just concerned that we need to find as much information as we can about cleaning up the site so that it's safe for families to be able to be there. So I realize some of this may take months, or working with the DNR and maybe the prior owners in order to clean it up. But I do think it would be a great new neighborhood within this area. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder Ryan. Is there anybody else that would like to give public comment?
Can you hear me?
We're going to give, oh, all right, yes, we can hear you. If you give your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is Chris Northfleet, 221 Scott Street. And I guess I pretty much want to say this is a possible win for everybody if the message is heeded clearly, that there's a significant amount of community and leaders in the community that feel it should stay residential, and I support it strongly. I also support Deb Ryan with the fact that at some point it should be cleaned up just for the future children in that community who plan to play in that area. And if we can possibly keep this positive spirit about environmentally allowing everybody to have a role, I think that's going to be the pathway for everybody. And maybe this could be a model for communities around this area. So I actually look at this as a positive and possibly a win for this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we are ready for you.
Someday we'll get a podium that doesn't discriminate against tall people. My name is David Peeler, 1025 Weston Avenue in Wausau. I am here to speak for 3M, as is Mario Diaz, the plant manager, who will speak on a different portion of our comments. My point is to make to you is that we should look at the big picture here, not just at the little zoning picture. The big picture is that of zoning, remediation, and redevelopment wrapped up together. As we heard in the Committee of the Whole meeting last month, they're all intertwined. And as we've heard comments from citizens of the community here, the remediation issue looms large and needs to be considered with the zoning issue. Your planner will tell you that zoning issues need to be made or need to be addressed thoughtfully, objectively, and based on all available facts. Frankly, a 3-minute opportunity to speak is way too short to explore that properly. There's no rush to rezone this. It is city-owned. Remediation is going to be different for the type of use you ultimately decide for this property, be it industrial or residential. And those discussions are in their very early stages. And it's premature to make decisions about the ultimate use to which the property will be put. characterizing the proposed zoning or rezoning as correction of an error is a little bit simplistic. As Mr. Lenz has pointed out, this was originally rezoned from industrial to residential at the specific request of a developer, but that never came off. That never materialized. So I think it's best to say this is up in the air still. I understand that when the zoning map was redrawn and approved, the consultant didn't get it right based on a 2018 action, but it's a little simplistic to call this simply correcting an error. Since the city owns the parcel, it has complete control over the future of the parcel, and the best process would be to allow all interested parties a full and fair hearing on all issues, including redevelopment, remediation, and zoning. I think it's a little imprudent for the city to bind its hands by rezoning now, particularly when some people might take that decision as an endorsement of a particular remediation approach or redevelopment approach. Rather than rezone now, we suggest that the Plan Commission hold this action in abeyance and coordinate necessary rezoning with remediation and redevelopment. The Commission should work with the Council and other city committees to jointly develop a plan to address the future of 1300 Cleveland rather than proceeding on a piecemeal basis with each entity acting in its own silo isolated from the others. Because we are all await additional information, we ask respectfully that the decision to rezone be temporarily postponed until all parties have relevant information and can make an informed decision. And this is not the first Rosenberg to gong me either.
Not shocked to hear that.
No.
Thank you. Hey there.
Good evening. Thank you for the chance to speak. My name is Mario Diaz, 1701 Maple Hill Road here in Wausau, Wisconsin. As Dave introduced, I represent 3M. I am the plant manager for the site here in Wausau. We submitted a proposal, an RFP for a portion of the property in April 2020. We're still interested in moving forward with that. I know that that's not what this hearing is for. But we continue to be interested in the parcel, particularly the section on the northwest portion of the property. 3M has been collaborating with Colby and Colby. We actually started collaborating them early in that process, basically with encouragement of the city. We think an approach of collaboration and cooperation is the way to go for this property, and that's what we've been trying to do since the beginning of the RFP process. Of course, that's taken some detours since then. As far as building in this private sector cooperation, we really look forward to doing the same thing with the city. And we have asked a number of times how we can cooperate with any entities that are interested in this particular property. As far as we know, Colby and Colby and ourselves are the only active interested parties right now. And if there's others, we certainly would like to work with them on a proposal that basically is beneficial for all constituencies. We do think that, as Dave Peeler mentioned, if we approach this in a deliberate manner for zoning, redevelopment, and remediation, it would be the most cost-effective and beneficial route for the city. We're very willing to cooperate with the city in trying to make good use of this parcel. We highlight that our original proposal did not include any request for tax breaks or any other incentives. The proposal basically included, paying market price for this property. And 3M Goals continues to be collaboration with the city and the neighborhood to arrive at a proposal that will consider the interests of all constituencies. So we're asking that you hold off on the zoning recommendation until the use of the property is determined, and based on the proposals of actual interested parties in this parcel. And we think that will address the concerns for the city and the district. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Mike Tomsick. I'm the Vice President of Finance at Colby & Colby Millwork, 1323 South 11th Avenue here in Wausau. And I'd just like to stress to the Planning Commission that there really is no urgent need to rezone this property today. Granted, there was an action by the council in 2018, which was based on a proposal that never materialized. It was vaporware. And then the city council adopted the maps after that that stated this property would be zoned industrial. Since then, your Community Development Department has asked for proposals to develop the property. And in good faith, some of those proposals were submitted for industrial uses by neighboring companies 3M and Colby Millwork. Last month, the council as a whole heard about contamination on the property, with the known item coming out of that meeting that there must be a remediation to either an industrial or a residential standard. But that decision is yet to be made by the council. It's not for the Planning Commission to unduly influence that decision. So I ask you, what's the upside to recommending a zoning change today? What is the upside? There really is none. And the downside is that the zoning may have to be changed yet again in the future. You know, support of local businesses looking to expand would really be appreciated. Apparently, there's a desire to quench that today. Remember, local businesses employ city residents. And in Colby's case, that's 364 of them, many of them living right near that site, plus another 488 that are within a 20-mile radius. So again, I'm telling you, there's no pressing need to have this decision, or have a decision other than this being tabled as of this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have the opportunity to speak again?
I don't know if that's typical for a public hearing, but you only took 1 minute, so I guess maybe I would
Thank
allow you to take one more.
I'm going to try to do this without emotion and speaking respectfully to the representatives of 3M and Colby, but he said there is no upside to rezoning this property. The upside to rezoning this property to residential is to give the people who live in that neighborhood peace of mind, knowing that there's not going to be further expansion from 3M and Colby. It's hard enough to live in that neighborhood and watch the plume of fumes that come out of that property every day, knowing that there's contamination in the area. People who live in that neighborhood do not want more industry. They want to feel safe, they want it remediated, and like Dennis Smith said, that could make a wonderful dog park. So please clean it up and remediate that to residential standards. That's what the DNR will consider. Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to comment today, public comment? Okay, I guess I have to ask one last time if there's anybody who would like to comment. All right, this public hearing is closed, but now we have some discussion to have at the Plan Commission level. Before we start there, maybe I would entertain a motion if somebody would like to offer one. I'm looking at Alder Peckham, yes? I'm guessing the motion is to rezone to residential?
Yes, that would be the motion, then I have a short comment.
Okay, we have a motion by Peckham and a second by Bolkin. Alder Peckham, the floor is yours.
Yeah, just for Mr. Bauman's sake, I'm not sure if you picked it up, but there's no proposal right now pushing this. The error was discovered, and it was like we sent the whole map thing off out of town, and then we changed it, and then when it came back, we didn't notice that we still had the original, so it was just a screw up that way. So it's just a matter of trying to get back to where we were in 2018 when the council voted to rezone this, so.
Thank you. Are there any comments by the committee? Would you like, okay, so I'll call on Mr. Borneman and then Alder Neal after that.
We on?
Yes.
Okay.
You got it.
First off, I just have a question on this, and I apologize being new, and the proposed zoning to the MRL 12, is that just a replacement type zoning for the old R4? And then, since you're shaking your head yes, I'm assuming that it is, that this is a similar type zoning to what it was zoned prior to the mistake.
Correct, yeah, just a little further explanation. I mean, every zoning district in the city changed from the old to the new.
Okay.
And and a lot of them was just a name change. It went from this to a corresponding new district. And, you know, there are actually three multifamily residential districts, but this one is closest to the old R4. But there are a couple other options that were a little less restrictive. This is the most restrictive multifamily district that we have,
Okay.
if that answers the question.
Sure. Any more questions?
Can I keep going?
Yeah, yeah, you have the floor, please.
The way coming at this is somewhat new, it's really just two issues, and one of them seems to be a desire of some people to make this residential, to have the cleanup effort be more substantial. And in my past dealings with zoning, I'm not sure that using the zoning code to make a determination of a level of remediation necessary for a property is the proper use of the zoning code. I understand what everybody's looking for, and the second part of this all is just the cleanup of a mistake. That we vote for approval of this, it goes to the city council, and then it goes to them, and they can make that determination what it is. And I'm kind of reluctant to do that. I just don't want to push it on with a recommendation from the commission that, okay, we're going to make this residential, it's a mistake, we'll go back to the way it was, and then the remediation and the question about the level of cleanup is just going to be theirs. And I'm kind of fearful that that's what's going to happen. When I look at this, there's no proposal in place for this property at this time. Typically, when we do a zone change, there's a lot of issues that we address, adjacent uses, traffic patterns and everything, but we don't have that with this. So I'm kind of teetering on the edge. Do we just fix the mistake, or do we keep it as it is and just let this percolate with city council? What do they want? What level of cleanup are they looking for? Or once we get into this, my understanding of the way that the issue with what I've seen on the council as a whole, that you're in the infant steps of this cleanup. You've just done the first one. I don't think there's been a reply back from, back from the DNR yet about what's necessary for the property. And they're going to probably ask for a couple more wells being bored, look at a couple other places, maybe off-site, determine just what level this is. And then to get into a remediation plan and get into all that, you're a long ways away from this becoming anything. So I'm kind of torn between between the options of just fixing the mistake, sending it on, or just holding it here until we get, and I don't know what that process is with the committee here. If we hold it here and just wait for some indication from council later on as to what their intentions are, be it Economic Development Committee, be it the council as a whole, as to what they want to do with this property.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alder Neal, I saw you had your hand up.
Yes, here. Yeah, just kind of echoing some of these most recent comments. The number one thing, just numerically, not necessarily priority, is looking at fixing an error, and that's fine, and I think we should do that. But beyond that, that has been the subject of enormous response from constituents in that neighborhood asking for that error to be fixed and for that property to be cleaned up. So I think that a lot of what we're considering, and we'll find out at council, how council feels about it, but a lot of this is about not necessarily the end use. We don't know what the end use of it might be. I know a lot of people might be thinking, well, zoning it residential will ensure that there will be residential development there. That's not necessarily the case. but the intent is to get it up to that standard of cleanliness, really in response to the overwhelming support for that we've gotten from the neighborhood. So therefore, I support rezoning it residential for various reasons, for fixing the mistake, for setting the stage for eventual cleanup, and how that will take place and how it will get paid for and everything is something that we will deal with down the road as we learn more. But I think doing anything less than going back to zoning it residential would be a pretty mean step, considering the many people that have asked us to do this, and rightfully so. But, that doesn't mean that there couldn't be something there of a non-residential nature further down the road. It's just, whatever it is, it'll be on clean ground. So I support this, and I hope everybody else does too.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any more comments from commission members? Yes, Mr. Lindman.
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to make it clear as well, because there's not a land use right now for everybody that's in the audience and online, that chances are that once the council determines a land use for this, which, they have the ultimate right is they own the property, whichever direction this could go, it's very likely that we're going to be right back here in this doing this same thing on a rezone. The MRL 12, as Brad pointed out, it's a very specific zoning for, something very typical, but, the chances are that land use will be very specific for that, are probably less than we'll probably have to go ahead and go through this whole process again just to rezone it for later on, whatever the actual land use is, industrial or non-industrial, whatever that might be. So I just don't want people in the audience to feel like, well, this went through tonight. If it goes through tonight, it goes on to council and then, it's done. It'll never be looked at again. Well, I can tell you that very likely it will be considered again. So just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you. Sure, Alder Killian. I'm not going to accept a lot of people from the audience, but since Alder Killian is a member of the body, I'm going to. I just want to be clear.
Thank you very much, and I promise I'll keep it very brief. I think Alder Neal kind of hit the nail on the head with his summation, and even Mr. Lindman indicated that we don't know what the ultimate land use may be, but I think there is a degree of properness and honor in this decision tonight. And I think, if there is something in the future that would change, I mean, even if there is, as we've heard from local companies or corporations tonight, if they take a shot at that property for something they want to do, what it would do is trigger the proper process in which citizens would have the ability, those who may be for it and those who may not, they'd at least be notified and have the ability to be heard. And I think what happened in this case is that didn't occur. So I think even if that changes in the future, I think what the citizens are asking is probably just and reasonable, and they're aware it could change down the road, but just getting a proper error-free process going, I think would go a long way. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else on this commission that has any comments? See, Alder Peckham?
Yeah, I would just say I'm glad it's being made clear that this is not locked in perpetuity, because I know that elected bodies can be made to pay dearly if people feel they've been betrayed. And I think, it's good to be open about the possibility that this action is to take it out of industrial and, kind of put that aside. At least for the time being, until we know better what we're doing. So I think this is a good path to take. I think Mr. Borneman's comments that zoning it residential to mandate or force a cleanup beyond what would normally be needed is not a good move either. But I think when we'll face another decision when we get the DNR reading on this. And, I think the cleanup will be fairly straightforward. but it could come back to, you know, a level and a cost where we say there's no way we can handle that. We can't stick, we can't allow residential use in there, then we'd have to change it. But I think any change back from the residential zoning would be taken very seriously and would not be done lightly. So I think this is a good move to pass this.
Thank you. And I guess I don't typically give a ton of comments here as being the chair, but I'm going to since I'm also a voting member. I plan on supporting the rezone, but I do question the administrative machinations of this. It doesn't feel like the right move, but it wasn't the right move the last time either. So I don't have a problem moving it back and recommending that to the council. We have a lot of work to do as a council on that property, so it's going to take time, and I think we need to be thoughtful. And if we don't have a lot of anxiety about the zoning during that discussion, I think we'll be able to have a better discussion about what our hopes and dreams are for that property and the cleanup. So that's where I'm at on this. I don't know if anybody else has any more comments. Anybody on WebEx that would like to weigh in? Otherwise, I think, oh, yes, Mr. Bornerman.
Just one other thing, and bear with me if I ask questions on process
No, we're
here.
glad you're here.
Okay. In case this goes to council and council doesn't approve it, is council and commission subject to the same rules in zoning that a third party would be, that if this were to hit council, council doesn't approve it, that it can't be then come back for a year's time?
That is a good question. I did not research that one prior to the meeting.
I just wonder if they have the same, I know only really two different entities can request a zone change, one being municipality or its agents, or the owner or its agents. And it doesn't, I was just going through your code because I'm wonky like that, but I just, a question that, thinking through the timeline of everything when we do it here, we approve it, goes to the council, and if something were to happen at council and, suddenly they say, nope, we don't want this to be residential due to, what we're looking at possibly as a cleanup, are we then subject to, this can't go to residential for a year's time?
Right. Well, I guess, generally, if it's the exact same request, then there would be a timeline, but.
Okay.
The council rules, I think, are 60 days or 30 days.
Yeah, there's a time limit. I'd have to see exactly what it is. But, I mean, there's always the option, and that's the tricky part about rezoning, is sometimes there's multiple options. And with bigger projects that have multiple components, I mean, we can go to a completely different zoning district, which is the planned unit development. It's a flexible zoning district. As a different option, that actually gives the city more control over the zoning than is typical. So I think if it's, there could be multiple zoning options for this property depending on, what happens down the road at council. So I guess I wouldn't be too concerned that we have to now, watch the clock before we can come back for another one. I think,
There's ways we can do that.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad you're here. You're asking the tough questions that we don't have the answer to right now. Thank you. Any other comments? All right, I think we are ready to vote. I will start with Alder Peckham. Alder Neal.
Aye.
Mr. Bolkin. Mr. Brugman.
No.
Mr. Borneman.
Aye.
Mr. Lindman.
No.
And Rosenberg, aye. This passes, oh my gosh, 5-2. Thank you very much. It will be on the council agenda, it looks like on April 13th, the next council. All right, item number 6, our next meeting date and future agenda item for consideration. Our next meeting is April 21st. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Bolkin, second by Borneman. Thank you very much, everyone.